Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with bigz, Marcus, and Grindberg. This is the injury apocalypse. Roger Goodell, do you know that your profit hoarding for the NFL owners is ruining our fantasy game? Tell us! Producer, hit it. Welcome once again to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and bigz and Marcus. It's our Friday injury show, and or Saturday, whatever. It's our week 4 injury show, and we're here with all of the latest Friday afternoon news and noise in the fantasy space, dealing with the injuries to the players on your team, my team, teams, your teams, my teams, and we got Marcus Gailey, who is a physical therapist, a physio, as they say in Britain. And
a cooler way to say it.
Yeah. And he's gonna help us get through this injury ocalypse 2024.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. It's good to be back with you two, though. Grindberg, I did wear my Canadian sweatshirt for you today.
Nice.
I was thinking about
the
you,
Expos.
So, oh yeah, bought it in Toronto. So
I think you mean Les Expos.
Les Expos.
Les. Okay.
I was just in Montreal a couple of weeks ago, so yeah.
Did you have a bagel?
You know what? That was the only thing I didn't have that wasn't like Montreal. Like we were walking by a place, it just didn't end up working out at the exact time. But we had poutine, we had Montreal smoked meat. It was delicious from Schwartz's Deli. It was it was a lineup for that place. It was like an hour and a half wait to get in. It was awesome.
Poutine means something different in Ireland. Here we call it moonshine.
That's awesome. All right, we've got a slew of games to get over here. Instead of just narrowing in on 3 key injuries, we're going to go through all the games that are coming up this weekend and kind of just quickly banging through these injuries. And we're going to start with the game, the Saints and the Falcons this week. And couple of injuries here to report. Alvin Kamara came up on the injury report. He looks like he's a little bit banged up with a hip and rib injury. Kamara didn't practice, as limited participation on Thursday, giving us some hope for his availability. If he can't go, look for Jamal Williams. But another situation here, we got Chris Olave. He just popped up on the injury report, and his hamstring looks like it's acting up here. He's uncertain day to day. What's your take on this situation in New Orleans there, Marcus?
Yeah, so Kamara, the positive news would be that he had been logging limited practices all week. If it is more just like a bruise contusion type deal, he probably could tough it out without further risk of re-injury. So I put him at a decent chance to give it a go. Someone who's a veteran like him, the weekly practices leading up aren't as important as to some of the younger players. So they probably felt more comfortable, giving him a little bit of time to rest, heal up, get some treatment to get ready to go for a tough divisional matchup this week against the Falcons. Chris Olave, on the other hand, just popping up today on Friday with an injury, with a soft tissue injury nonetheless, is not great news. They didn't reveal a ton about the severity, so my guess is he probably tests it out pregame, and the decision will be made there after pregame warmups. But certainly not great to be popping up on just a Friday on the injury report. So definitely keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, bigz, what's your insight on that situation there? I mean, injuries happening in practice, not great leading into the weekend, especially these soft tissue ones that we don't know the severity of it. What's your first instinct on this?
It's another banner week. For those of you playing IDP, Demario Davis is also out. That could mean a little bit better game for Bijan Robinson, so you might want to move him up a tick in your rankings. And A.T. Perry is also out, so adjust your lineups accordingly. You got to monitor Chris Olave. He's very important. It should be a pretty okay day. I wasn't huge on him this week anyway, just simply because of Atlanta's pass defense. But these injuries, man, I'm bereft.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the Rams and Bears. And the Rams are navigating the absence of star wide receiver Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. They both remain out with, well, one's with an ankle injury. The tight end, Davis Allen, is listed as questionable with back issues. The Bears, meanwhile, are managing multiple injuries, including the questionable designation of Keenan Allen still. So he's still up in the air. We're looking at this game as, two teams looking to find their identity here with some injuries piling up. The Bears' offensive line looks pretty sparse. What's your take here, Marcus, on the situation here in Chicago there?
Yeah, so Keenan Allen would be a pretty nice get back for Caleb Williams. Again, not sure on his status right now. He has been banged up with that heel for a couple weeks, but if he does play, that should theoretically help the Bears getting the ball out quicker, take some of that pressure off the offensive line. Again, not sure. I believe he's been limited all week, which again kind of leaves it as a toss-up for him on Sunday. So we'll probably know Sunday for sure what their plans are for him. They'll probably hold out and just see how he feels here, through today and tomorrow. And then the Rams, they're just figuring out how to get it done. Matthew Stafford is pretty remarkable. They have a banged-up offensive line down their top two weapons, and it just seems like whether it's Tutu Atwell or Demarcus Robinson, these guys just figure out how to make timely plays. So again, I don't know who. We kind of touched on this a little bit last week. I don't know who in that wide receiver room is going to step up. Last week it was Atwell. This week it could be Whittington or Tyler Johnson. So it's really hard to predict on a week-to-week basis. However, we saw it from Tutu Atwell last year, and again last week. He does still have that big playability. So in deeper leagues, him being healthy with the top two target earners down could be worth, a play there. So
bigz on the other end of the ball there, the Bears, with Keenan Allen out, it looked like Rome Odunze coming in and having a really big, game for his first, big league game here in the NFL. What are we thinking about Rome Odunze moving forward? Are you a bit more optimistic now about his future with Caleb? With how holy that offensive line has been for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, my stance on Rome Odunze hasn't changed. I still love the potential and his talent. I think if Keenan Allen is back in the lineup, that could take some pressure off Odunze, and he could actually do even better. He was listed this week and then finally came off the injury designation today, so Odunze should be fine. And everything that I was reading today about Keenan Allen was that he's more than likely going to play. So that should help Odunze. That should help Caleb Williams, like Marcus pointed out. And yeah, it's that I as far as the Rams are concerned, I just finally gave up on Jordan Whittington, and so I'm driving the Ty Johnson, Demarcus Robinson train now.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Indianapolis Colts. The Steelers facing a challenging situation with Russell Wilson still hasn't practiced. Marcus, I heard you talk about the situation on the Undrafted today, the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields combination. If Wilson does end up, coming back, it's going to be tough for him to get back into the lineup, we're thinking at this stage. But running back Jaylen Warren out for or foreseeable future. Najee Harris will have to carry the load. He's a little bit banged up. So the oversight here in the Steelers background there. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Steelers and their situation right now headed into the weekend?
Yes. So Jaylen Warren just hasn't quite looked himself, up to this point in the year. He had a hamstring injury in the preseason, which kind of limited his touches in week one. Pops up with a knee injury. Tomlin had said last week he just didn't look right running the ball, pulled him out of the game. MRI was negative, but they're going to be cautious, with the 17-game season. So he's out. Russell Wilson continues to just be, limited. That's all we get is limited participation with a calf
Mr.
injury.
Limited.
Mr. Limited. That's
perfect.
I'm pissed I didn't think about that myself. That was great right there.
I didn't either, so to be fair.
So again, I still couldn't tell you the severity of that. We're going on a month now with this calf injury, and which makes me think now all along it was worse than they were leading everybody on to believe. So, for now it's still Fields' ball, and as they continue to, if he continues to improve and if they're stacking wins, Again, it's going to be really hard for him to get unseated. But real quick, back to the running back situation. Najee is a go. He's good. No injury concerns for him going through after the weird shoulder thing that they were talking about this week. And then looks like Cordero Patterson is probably going to be splitting time with him. He had a couple of nice runs last week against the Chargers. The old man is still showing he's got some juice. So look for those two to spearhead the running game this week against a pathetic run defense, honestly, from the Colts up to this point this year. So,
yeah, we've been hammering Najee in our starts and sits shows. I'm upset about Alex Highsmith being out again with a groin injury. Hope he comes back pretty soon for my IDP leagues. How do you think, as bad as this Colts run defense is, how does Michael Pruitt being out and Isaac Seumalo being likely to be out, how do you think that affects the holes that they're going to be able to punch for Najee Harris, knowing that Najee Harris isn't the most efficient runner? He needs help.
Correct. Yes. So Seumalo has been out to this point. They've been platooning a couple other guys in his place between Spencer Anderson and rookie Mason McCormick, who've been pretty solid to this point. I do believe for the Colts, Buckner is out. They're down possibly Kwity Paye.
Kwity Paye is out.
They're down a couple in the secondary too.
Yeah, Kenny Moore.
Kenny Moore. So they're banged up on defense as well. Michael Pruitt, though, he'd actually been playing a lot. He's a good blocker. So while they do still have Darnell Washington, who's basically
also
a left tackle,
good blocker.
Yeah, who's basically a left tackle wearing number 80. It'll be interesting to see who takes. I'm guessing it will be Freiermuth versus Connor Hayward, who's going to take his reps in the run game. But neither of them are fantastic blockers. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do on the edge without Pruitt. But again, the Colts are equally, if not more so, banged up, and they've already been pretty porous against the run up to this point as is. So hopefully that lends to a solid game from both Steelers running backs.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the other side of the ball then, because, there's not some, notable injuries for the Colts, but they have a banged up offensive line. Their center and their tackle are both questionable. That's leaving some doubt against this tough Steelers defense for Anthony Richardson. Biggs, what's your thoughts on Richardson this week? I know I had him as a sit. Even further, with this offensive line, kind of questionable here. Does that further cloud his situation this week against the Steelers?
Yeah, it certainly does, and I've been moving him to my bench in every lineup where it's not detrimental to have him out. I really hate this matchup for the Colts. Although I did say that last week about Jonathan Taylor because he had a terrible matchup last week and wound up as RB5, which was a huge miss for me. So it could turn out that Jonathan Taylor is the only piece of offense that the Colts have, and he has himself a fine enough game, even looking at the matchup. So I'm not willing to count him out again. So that means he's probably going to score 2 points.
Yeah, fair. All right, let's get on to this next matchup here, and it's the Eagles and Buccaneers. The Eagles are feeling the impact of these injuries to their wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. While Brown is questionable, he has been participating in practice both Wednesday and Thursday, providing some optimism about his availability. Smith, however, remains out due to a concussion for the Bucs. There's several players. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but let's get into A.J. Brown here, Marcus. Our fantasy gamers going to likely have him back this week. It's looking like he's potentially starting.
Yes, so the back-to-back, the few limited practices in a row is definitely a good sign. He's missed 2 games now to this point, so he's coming up on 3 weeks, which is about the timeline for a minor hamstring injury. So if he feels good, again, he'll test it out in warm-ups. I don't know that they'll give a decision prior to then. But also, again, he's such a prized piece of their offense that, if they feel they can get by without, one more week without him playing, they might just rest him one final time and really get him back going for week 5. But it is encouraging. There's definitely a chance he plays this week, and they're going to need him because with no Smith out with the concussion, that's going to leave Jahan Dotson,
Johnny
Wilson, and Paris Campbell.
Dallas
Goedert.
Tight end. Yeah. So, they could really use Brown because the Bucs are absolutely no pushover. They knocked him out of the playoffs last year. So again, the back-to-back limited is good for A.J. Brown, but I don't know how aggressive they're going to want to be with it still being only week 4 with, 13 weeks left.
Yeah, fair.
Now, I don't know about A.J. Brown, but according to the NFL website, A.J. Smith is questionable.
It
Perfect.
took me a second, and I was like, who in the hell is A.J. Smith?
I mean, way to go, NFL.com.
Yeah.
A.J. Smith, misquote. Also, Marcus, say hello to your cats for me.
Yeah, man, dude, brutal.
I'm going to have to bounce out of here real quick because everything just crashed. So
all right.
I have no screen or anything. I don't know what to do.
All right, well, we'll continue on, and if you got to bounce back in, we'll fill you in. But you
I
sound
can't bounce out.
You sound great. So let's just continue on.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the Buccaneers side of the ball here. I didn't put it on the show sheet, but it looks like Bucky Irving, he's banged up. We got Godwin, Evans a little banged up here too. Looking like Bucky's going to play. I'm not too concerned about that situation. What do you think about this whole offense in general here, Marcus, with these players kind of sitting out a bit here?
Yeah, you see a lot of questionables. I don't believe that any of them are in a huge amount of danger to miss this upcoming game. Seems like, White has shaken off his groin injury enough to, it looks like he's going to play along with Irving. And then both receivers, it looks like they're going to play as well. Again, I do think the fact that it is a longer NFL season, you see more like limited and questionables throughout the week. But again, I don't think that anybody in their offense is in true jeopardy, at least not that I've seen across, some of my research on like Sleeper, Twitter, just kind of where I find my news. I don't think any of them are going to be
in jeopardy. Yeah. And if one of those wide receivers are out, we've talked about it on this show in depth already. Jalen McMillan would be a great person to plug and play if either Godwin or Mike Evans were to lose some time here, and it's not looking like it's going to happen this week. So let's move on. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers, the Bengals game here. Not much going on there as far as the Panthers side of the ball goes. The story last week we know was Deontay Johnson and Andy Dalton emerging, and Adam Thielen, he's on the injured reserve now. So it looks like lights up for Deontay Johnson, but he has an uncertain status right now with a groin injury. What's your take on that situation and that whole Carolina Panthers offense in general right now moving forward?
Yeah, so obviously they looked a lot better with Andy Dalton at the helm last week. They put up a crooked number on the scoreboard, which was good to see. Thielen finds himself on IR with that hamstring injury. Deontay Johnson, and I know this too, as he played for my former rooting interest, the Steelers. He pops up a lot with these soft tissue injuries, but he never seems to truly miss, which is a good sign, good news for Panthers fans. Groin injury, they're probably just playing it slow, but I expect him to go on Sunday. Without Thielen, it's going to be interesting to see which of the young receivers on the Panthers maybe gets more targets between Xavier Legette, Jonathan Mingo. Does Tommy Tremble, the tight end, see a little bit more usage? I'm not entirely sure what to expect out of that cast of characters, but what I can expect is if Deontay Johnson is a go, for him to have another big game against kind of a porous defense, which we saw them get absolutely smoked by the Commanders last week on Monday night. So, yes. Yeah,
get Deontay in your lineups if he's playing for sure. Okay, here's a one. We still haven't seen Evan Ingram all year. This is looking like a situation that's ongoing. Joe Mixon also doesn't look like he's going to be able to go this week. So this divisional matchup is losing two of their star players in it. What's your outtake on Ingram, and then a little bit on Joe Mixon too?
Yeah, so Ingram's been out. I don't think he hasn't played this year, correct? He missed week one with the hamstring. So I believe I mentioned this on our first show, like soft tissue injuries, depending on the severity, and again, we don't get those ever on the injury reports, can be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks upwards to 8 to 12 weeks. Like they can be bad if it's a bad enough strain. So now he's missing his third week. He's been out for close to a month. We'll see what happens next week for him. But, I'm almost surprised at this point that they didn't just put him on IR, because we saw that with Justin Jefferson last year with the hamstring. It does happen. You can most certainly get put on IR with soft tissue injuries. So keep an eye on him moving forward. If he's unable to go again next week, that would be a month for him.
Yeah.
Which is not great, especially as, people had some high hopes for him coming into the season with, how many targets he was getting last year.
I said to bigz last night
I don't know who we're talking about, but I agree.
Yeah, I said to bigz yesterday on the show, and he's going to remember right away that I compared him to maybe a career trajectory similar to one of Darren Waller. And
oh no, my heart.
So, with the hamstring, after a really nice season, on a new team, it just seems like a lot of very much similarities there. And I hope it's not the same trajectory there. All right, so let's move on. We got a couple more injuries to hit up here. Joe Mixon, did you touch base on that one there, Marcus? He's going to probably come in and miss another game. So Akers probably going to get the rock again, and probably a little bit more of a tougher matchup here.
Yeah, so Mixon did participate today. I believe he was limited, but I don't think he's going to play. He didn't practice all week until today. They probably just kind of wanted to see where he was at. If he felt okay, that gives him a better idea for next week's matchup. Dameon Pierce was also ruled out. So if Mixon cannot go, I do expect it to be the Cam Akers show again in the backfield. Jacksonville's defense just got absolutely reamed on Monday night by Buffalo. So I expect them to look maybe a little bit sharper. But again, also just sticking with the same offense, Tank Dell is out as well. So, possibly no Mixon and no Dell for the Texans this week in a divisional matchup. I expect that to see increased volume for all three of Akers, Nico Collins, who's ready to go, and also Stephon Diggs.
I thought the Texans, from what I heard, they thought this was a bye week for them, so they're resting all their starters anyhow, because they know that they're playing the Jags and they look pretty pitiful. That was a Schultz shot. So
fired.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers. Deebo Samuel looking like he might be back. He's practiced in limited fashion twice this week. They definitely could use a boost here. Looking like maybe Deebo could be playing. What do you think here, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, if I were them, I would not play him this week, just because of his injury history. He does get banged up a lot, and I don't personally think there's a point to rush him back. Even though they are 1-2, which isn't great, but they have a pretty favorable matchup this week against New England. They should be able to get it done without him, giving him an extra week to rest and heal up that calf. So I would not expect him to go this week, even though he did log some limited practices, which is good. That means he's trending in the right direction. But with him, especially because he is such an important cog in their offense, I don't expect him to be rushed back anytime soon.
Yeah, and what about George Kittle there, bigz? He's recovering from a hamstring injury. They're looking for some depth at that position, somebody to catch some balls there. And then we saw Jawan Jennings last week break out. So George Kittle, is he coming back this week, you guys think?
Yeah, he's out of designation.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an injury designation, so it's wheels up for George Kittle. And I guess the Austin Seibert experiment is over.
There it is.
R.I.P. 1 week. It lasted 1 week.
Right. Or you could have said the Jake Tongas, California Golden Bears legend, Jake Tongas experiment.
All right, bigz, tell us about the Raiders. And, there's some injuries happening in that lineup right now. And I didn't know that Devontae Adams was even on the injury report, and then he's out all of a sudden. So what happened there?
He hurt his hamstring yesterday in practice, and so he is now listed as out. Max Crosby is out. We knew Divine Diablo wasn't going to be playing. Michael Mayer is taking some time to deal with a personal non-injury related issue. And cornerback to Cameron Richardson, who hasn't been a factor, is out as well. Max Crosby is listed as doubtful, but Antonio Pierce said today he's not going to play. And Amir Abdullah is questionable and not likely to play. So that leaves a two-headed monster of Zamir White and Alexander Mattison to stick it to the Browns. And maybe we'll see some Dylan Laube action. But yeah, Devontae Adams being out is bad. It's real bad that when you have your target leader, snap percentage leader, reception leader, yards leader, and he goes down, it's not a good thing. But it does give a little boost to Brock Bowers. He should see some more targets. And Jacoby Myers, who is primarily a slot receiver, and he's very, very good in the slot, but he's able to move out to the outside, play that X that Adams normally occupies. Trey Tucker, I don't think there's going to be any change in terms of his fantasy upside. He's a boomer bust player, so he's either going to take the top off for a couple catches and maybe a touchdown, or he's not. And I don't think Devontae Adams changes that. But it does give the Cleveland Browns and their vaunted run defense even more incentive to just stack the box. And so another nothing burger day for Zamir White and Alexander Mattison. Although Alexander Mattison may just get a fourth vulture touchdown in a row.
Are you bitter about that, bigz?
No, not in the strict sense. I mean, I don't mind if I knew going into the season that he was our version of Jamal Williams, but I just don't. I want to see Zamir White pick it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. All right, let's get into the last injury before we head her out for the day. Let's talk about Justin Herbert. He's been questionable here at it looks like a high ankle sprain from what I gather, and not looking good for the Chargers if he can't suit up. Biggs, we talk about high ankle sprains a lot. It's something that a lot of people can tape up. Maybe at the quarterback position is something, depending on how severe it is. I'm gonna start with you, Biggs, about the high ankle sprain, and then maybe Marcus, you can kind of give your sight on that as well.
Well, I've never talked about a high ankle sprain just taping it up and getting back out there. I've said that about low ankle sprains, having done that myself. But I did want to bring it up to Marcus. Of course, he's practicing in a limited fashion all week. They really don't want to have to rely on Easton Stick, and he was in a similar position last week. Tried to play and eventually had to come out of the game. So rather than just resting him last week and having him be a little bit more healed for this week, what would you say if you were, say, the Chargers team physio? Would you say, like, look, just shut him down for another week and let him heal a bit, or let him see what he can do, and if he has to come out after the first half, then be damned?
Yeah, those injuries are they're no walk in the park, and without knowing the severity of it or seeing what he looks like in practice, it's hard to say for sure. But a high ankle sprain is a high ankle sprain. Those take some time to recover because there's more than just like your ankle ligaments affected. It also gets up into like your tibia and fibia as well, or fibula. Look at me, I'm a PT, huh? Anyways, so I mean, yeah, last week you saw him. He got sacked. He got rolled up on. He had to come out of the game. So that's going to set him back a little bit, a couple of days. And now he's got to go. They're playing the Chiefs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now you got to go against that defense, and on third downs,
Kansas City,
quarterbacks are just sitting ducks there for Spagnuolo dialing it up. So, I mean, I know he's. Can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Of course, my cats, bumped my mic and knocked it out. Anyways, it's gonna be tough for him. Like, that's a tough matchup on the road, coming off an injury. I personally would not recommend that he plays, but again, it's a divisional matchup. He's tough. He's competitive. He's gonna want to be out there. But I would have had him rest for definitely last week, maybe even one more if it truly is a high ankle sprain.
And it's not just that. It's not just the Justin Herbert injury. It's the fact that Joe Alt is hurt. Rashawn Slater is out. So his protection isn't going to be there. And you would be foolish to bet money that Chris Jones won't do everything that he can to try and fall on that ankle in some way if he gets his hands on Justin Herbert. Just because I would do that.
All right, bigz. Well, gentlemen, half an hour in, we covered a bunch of these injuries. I wish they weren't so long. So hopefully like this show could maybe wrap up in 20 minutes at some point of the season. Probably not, though.
Let's have a 5-minute show next week, guys.
Yeah, let's go. Let's
everybody's back. Yeah!
Touchdown for fantasy. No, but it's not realistic. So hopefully now the first quarter of the season is done. These players have had some time to get, into their pro shape that they should be in, and hopefully these injuries are going to be a little bit more less frequent. Marcus, you want to tell our viewers again where to find you and all your stuff, my man?
Absolutely. So you can find me on the Undroppables YouTube and Twitter page. I do the Steelers Uncovered show with my man bigz, and then also Unavailable, which is an injury-related show. Slacking a little bit. I'm planning to get one out here soon, just with all of the material to talk about now. So, I'm going to give a little cameo to the guy making all the noise in the background.
Co-host.
For my co-host for today.
Yeah.
So Undroppables YouTube and Twitter page, and then find my own personal page on Twitter at MD Gailey.
Awesome. Bigz, you got anything to add?
That's MDGALIE. I do. Tune in for Breakfast with Bigz on Sunday morning, round 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern. We've got more coming to you. We've got this show dropping. We've got our waiver wire episode next Tuesday. We've got the Thursday start and sit episode that'll be dropping next Friday. We've got the points after Thursday live after the Thursday night football game. That's all right here on the Fantasy Football Advice Network on YouTube's. You can find me at BigBonedFFB on Twitter. But what's more fun is going to the search bar and type in Jameer Bigz. And then you can find me.
It was awesome, man. I saw that today on my notifications coming up. Who the hell's Jameer? Wait a second. I love it. All right, everybody. From all of us here on the Fantasy Forecast on the Fantasy Football Advice Network, what do we got to say?
We hope you don't get injured.
Yeah, and we hope you win. Yeah, peace out, everyone.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again,